Добрый день. Меня зовут Сергей Гордейчик. Я генеральный директор
Hello,
компании.
I'm Sergey,
И сегодня
CEO
мы
of
будем
CyberRock
общаться в
Company.
ходе
And today in our studio of Positive Hug Days, we have a very interesting conversation about
и
expert
обсудим это
openness. And we are going to discuss this together with our guests, with Anton and Sergey.
Представьте себя,
Anton, Sergey, please introduce yourselves because I can mix up your positions. Hello, everybody. I'm Anton. I work in Positive Technologies.
Соответственно, сегодня
And today I'm going to speak about expert openness from my point of view.
солдатов я работал.
I'm Sergey Soldatov. I used to work in Kaspersky Labs. I'm the head of operational department, SOC. And today I will help Anton to figure out what is expert openness.
открытость.
So what is this expert openness? And this will become a buzzword, meaningless buzzword,
По-другому.
something like that.
Смотрите, мы все
Okay,
работаем
let's
в
see.
индустрии. И
We work in the industry quite a while. And recently,
более понятно, что задач много.
we understand more and more that we have a lot of objectives, but very few people doing them. And if 1 year ago we could play these games that
Наши сигнатуры,
we have this know-how, this is our signatures, this is your signatures,
уникальные знания, то сейчас
these are unique knowledge, but right now it's understandable that many horizontal connections have been destroyed in the world, but inside of Russia, they have not been able to build them from the scratch. So, because of this war that we cannot call this openness suffered significantly. But on the other side, I see that even in the antivirus industry, why I say also because it's the oldest one after the cryptography, still this process have not been developed. It works only on two levels, on level of PR and marketing.
да, вот мы опубликовали
When we have published a presentation, here's Yara Rue, whatever,
конкретный заказ.
or on the level of specific clients, when you cannot hide from this and you have to work together and you have to exchange information with each other.
Зрения Сергея,
So, from your point of view, Sergey, because you work closer to antivirus, because I know where you work,
изменилось за последние
has anything changed
в мире
in
и
this area, in the world, and in the country and on the local market?
Корректирую. На самом деле,
Well, I would like to correct you.
Threat Intel, в общем,
Threat intelligence exchange
более системно реализуется.
is done more systematically than you've been speaking about. It's not ad hoc. All vendors do exchange compromising information with each other, and this is a very systematic work which is done continuously. As for the global changes, well, as you properly said, horizontal connections have been destroyed. We are losing our participation in international communities. However, once again,
Иначе как-то там организовывались.
because
Да, вот такие какие-то позиции.
they've been organized with state participation.
Потом
Like Mitra, we did participate in Mitra, then we stopped participating in Mitra. I will speak about Mitra a little bit later. But as for expert level, we still participants. We communicate with you,
именно горизонтально.
and this destruction of these horizontal connections in the framework of international relations should stimulate
Зарядных связей.
reinforcement of building these horizontal connections on the local level.
у меня вопрос в том же контексте, но мне
I have another question in the same context, but I would like to say that Positive Technologies is well known as
тимовская команда, да, то есть
Red Team
White Hat
company
изначально.
or White Hat company since the beginning.
Что-то в мире
But something
да, или
like vulnerability assessment in the world or red teaming,
горизонтальные связи.
do you see same horizontal connections, exchange of information about vulnerabilities by detection?
Или пока
Did it happen in Russia or it's still being built?
Он еще не состоялся.
I think it's still in the process.
О том, что нужно
But the understanding that we have to cooperate, we have to exchange knowledge, it's not bad and it's useful. Well, this opinion has not been developed on the market yet. And it's important for the people who work here, for the people who communicate in the conferences, for the people who participate in group discussions, Telegram, forum discussions. It's important for them to understand that knowledge is not something sacred.
его опыт.
Well, but the most important thing for the expert is the experience. So the experience should be acquired separately by every expert, but they should share the knowledge they have accumulated. And this is very important. That's why it is very important for people to learn how to communicate with each other and then try to build certain structures around it. So we're not there yet, but we're moving there.
важная история.
Okay, there's another important story. We are speaking about buzzword expert openness, but does it exist? Are there any good examples of expert openness and bad examples of it? Can you give me a couple of examples about what did work and what didn't work and became just the cloud of tags?
Смотри, ну, тут
Well, let's see.
образно скажу, что на
I'll
самом
tell you generally,
деле можно решить плохо.
any task can be solved in a good way and a bad way. It's the question of prioritization. When the state stimulates expert openness, this is good
Комплайнс это всегда хорошо.
because it leads to compliance, and compliance is good.
Управляющей компанией.
But if this will be reinforced,
Техниками и тактиками
if they will share tactics and techniques, it's a good initiative because we will
да, фактически. Если же
do what Mitra does today. But if we will be enforced to show incidents, it will kill an outsourcing because outsourcing is much better because it's much easier to communicate with main players on the stage.
потянется за главным,
And then the industry will pull up behind the main players because there's a lot of examples like Facebook, Google, and others. They've been changing industry.
поэтому
We should do the same.
пример хороший Майтер, опять же, но
So Mitra is a good example here.
я
A
думаю,
better example,
дает, но вдруг
I think it will never reach us, but
какую-то общую
then I will say, okay, let's try to create some common database of incidents. God forbid. It's a bad realization. But I would like to give you another bad example
База уязвимости.
when there is a common database of vulnerabilities in Russian language.
мнения.
That's my opinion.
Твои какие
Anton,
примеры?
maybe you have some personal examples.
примеров
Let's start with the bad examples. I think from the point of view of
действия самих
cooperation between participants of our community, informational security community, the most destructive and bad examples are examples when
начинают
community becomes politically engaged,
люди взаимодействуют,
when
они готовы
people cooperate and they're ready to share, but top managers of these communities, they play some political games, and these horizontal connections are being destroyed. This is the most destructive. And we see expert closeness here. Another example here,
сообществ, которые
it's the class of communities
правильно
which is not properly built. When everything rotates around the same person, and when this person leaves, the activities in the community stop. So people should be involved on the expert level, and it's going to be good for them to understand
чтобы они
why they do this, so that they would be driven by this.
Момент, вы
Another interesting topic you just mentioned,
экспертную открытость, ну как что-то такое, как
the expert openness as some kind of a community, or something like that. But on the other side, one of good examples provided by Sergey is Miter. Miter is a story sponsored by the state completely. Maybe it does have commercial side to it. But I have a question: how these expert communities are built? Either there should be support of the state, like Silicon Valley was built by the Ministry of Defense requirement, or big vendors which can invest, like Google did, with big number of open source companies. Or these should be some self-organizing companies when guys developed something in the garage and then it became big. Well, it's impossible in the modern world. But what do you think? What is required for these to roll
у меня есть
and to work?
э,
I have the answer.
книга
There's a wonderful book which is called
«Социальная архитектура».
Social Architecture.
И он рассматривает
Hitchens wrote it, and he speaks about the ZNQ society. It's not about expert openness, it's more about the development of the software. However, he emphasizes that the most important thing is providing people with an opportunity of free contribution with no limitation of creating free repositories. You come, and then people vote with their participation. If they don't like, they will be excluding this project.
пример сообщества.
So this is a great example, a Tier&Q project. And what is needed for this? You need to create conditions for people. You need platforms for people to come. They should have transparent rules. What is to be done? How should they contribute?
И чтобы это было
Involving people so that it would be interesting for them. So the first thing, we involve experts and we say it's not difficult to share the knowledge. The second thing, if you want to share, come here and you will have all the tools available to you.
таких основных.
I think these are two main ideas.
Я
Sergey?
хочу про Майтер немножко рассказать, потому что
Well, I would like to speak about Mitra.
государством спонсированным,
It's not just state-sponsored company. They've created some structure into which you can
участвовали в тестировании.
join. For example, MITRE was tested recently, and before we participated there, we've transferred certain threat intelligence. We invested in this testing so that it would be more open, more proper,
Ну, фактически
more
мы
objective.
этим вот,
So MITRE,
который мы там,
with this framework, created conditions which
для того, чтобы в целом
facilitated to improvement of the situation. So do properly understand that by participating in their project, you also get some marketing benefits, and you also help them in developing their own testing, and you get technical benefit getting information from competitors indirectly. Yes, indirectly, of course. Second of all, we do contribute to them. There's a lot of different techniques. When we've been friends, there's a lot of techniques, and you can find a lot of them with our names on them. And second of all,
потом разобрали там все свои эти
we've been looking at these tests. We've been looking at them together with our engineering teams, and it's a very good shakedown because best players participated. It's not that you just did something,
отношения-то
because
в экспертном сообществе, оно, ну,
in expert community, relations are very warm, and those people we've been communicating, they've been very open with us, and they told us, well, this is the situation. It's very good.
Совершенно вот открытая история, которую...
But if we take a different look, Anton, you represent the commercial side, but the commercial case would always imply a question. Who owns the result? For example, I worked with Center for Internet Security. We had checklists for different OSs, for different network hardware, and they were issuing both their own copyright material, and then you cannot really use it. So this is how it works. That's expert transparency for you.
компания государева,
Well,
правильно,
obviously, it's a government company,
собирают они.
so they collect this intel and they make it accessible to the
Потому что как заставить, да,
whole
там,
population.
как заставить компанию коммерческую тратить свое время, чтобы
Obviously, it's all about capitalism. How do you make a commercial company to develop some kind of technology? So it's really a hard task.
инвестировать время,
Yeah,
тратить,
sure, we can just invest a lot of money, a lot of resources, and try to do this
чтобы там что-то
very expensive experts to do some research and just give it for fundamental research to our competition. Yes, we'll speak about competition a little bit later. Competition is a different topic to discuss. But you know, the solution is simple. It's compliance.
заказчику, потому что
Compliance for the customer is very important. It's verification of quality. And it's also very important for the vendor, because if we comply with some requirements, then
это умеет,
it's verified
мы соответствуем вот
by somebody else, by a third party, that these are the standards and we comply with the standards. We are up to the par, we up to the bar. We passed the MITRE test, so we can do this. And I think the compliance test can be given even by the government. It can be beneficial to both parties, not only for us in terms of PR, but also for improving our features for a specific level. And it will be good for customers because they know that we, for example, verify this level, we comply with the standards, so we have, say, 5% of meat in our product.
мы же контрибьютим во-
Yes, and we actually contribute to all these standards which are used to test other products.
знаешь. То
And
есть,
you probably know about this.
контрибьют-
We basically contribute to the standard with our ideas and we increase the quality, we raise the bar. And it's beneficial for us because we develop our own products and we promote the industry by improving the compliance.
Подходит
And we should not forget that if we have this top-down approach, then
люди, которые в этом участвуют,
the people who are involved in this,
они не
they
заинтересованы,
are
чтобы прям все
not really interested in doing it as good as possible. Because if somebody decided, okay, I want to share my knowledge, I want to take part in this project,
от регулятора, тогда он независимо
If-
от того, занимается он
if they want to do so, if they are not obliged to do so, then it's a different result.
продолжает приносить
They will stay in a company, they will contribute to the community. So it's a different approach if it goes from within and not from the outside. And Anton, I'm sorry, I have to chisel in, but you are wrong. And let me explain why. This idea,
в этих
I've been part of this different movements, both as an organizer and as a contributor, and even as a regulator. So suppose you come to a regulator, to Stack Overflow, and you say, I want to develop a standard. I want even to create a good vulnerability database, or maybe to promote and upload a lot of hunts for Sigma.ru, whatever. They will just, obviously, they will be very glad to do so. They will tell you, okay, do it. Use your expert team, we will use our expert team, we will analyze it. And if you do so, great. But within the team, you would come and tell your guys and say, okay, let us bring our efforts together. Let us go to these people who work with Sergey and we exchange the stuff and they will upload it. And they will say, okay, great. We do not want to invent a bicycle. Why should we redo the steps that they already did? We will just negotiate this. But as soon as you go there to the manager, to the product manager, to the sales manager, or project manager who thinks how to get money from the product, your initiative will die. And it will die from this top-to-down approach. And what I mean, it's not necessarily that the regulator, we had this very strict approach. Yes, they will have the standards, but you will not be able to do this because it has this middle ground, and this middle ground usually is the main obstacle. Do agree this problem exists, and these companies should promote and should give benefits to their talented employees. But I also think that people should be invested themselves in this. Well, you described a way for somebody to go through a project manager, and it's really hard to do so. But I do believe that people can do this on their own, in their free time, maybe even during the working time, if they're allowed to do so. If it comes from within, if it comes from inside, not from outside. It's all about sincerity. Okay, I understand your point. Now, how do we manage with Russia? How do we increase the speed of the information exchange rate? What I see now, I believe it's more about marketing, when we just upload something and we give something for free and we sell something along. But what about the cooperation with different regulators? Are there any other ways, any other solutions? We can just say, okay, we want others to know about this, and we just throw this information to this side of the web, to this side of the web, and then it will spread. I usually use community experts, and within this community, we have relevant problems for defensive security. We have projects, we involve people, and we ask them, if you are interested, you can get involved with this project, and then you can benefit from it. Today, or rather tomorrow, we will speak about those tracks. We will have a workshop, you will be able to take part in it. For example, we have a Yermak database. It's a special database, and you can have a specific plan of actions. What would you do in case of emergency breach? And how do we get there? You can take part in the discussion on Telegram. Yes, we will have a QR code tomorrow. It will be on during the whole day. Yes, it will be in Technotent tomorrow. So we need platforms, and this is one of these platforms. Because platforms are used for collaboration. Sergey, you mentioned the participation in MITRE, you shared your positive experience on the testing side. But do laboratories have their own initiatives, maybe where it leads, or now it's one of the major contributors to the area which we are discussing right now? Actually, we have quite a lot of initiatives. They are mostly connected with our own specificity of our work. For example, we had an initiative for no ransomware. We were the first who started to fight Starkaway. I spoke about this on one of the TEDs. Yeah, so we were the origin of this. Okay, can you go into some details about this project? Yes, so we have a fight, you can just go there. Yes, so you have a website, and probably you have some utilities, and you can use them if you are encrypted. Yes, it's true. There are techniques which you can use to counteract this fraudulent activity. About half of our company contribute especially on this topic, because ransomware, it's not just encryptor, it's a way for them to monetize their activity. It's not even an ATM, it's not even a machine, it's just a business, it's an industry. So you have to know about this. It's not just about utilities, it's not about tools. I think this document is about 80 pages, and you give this
Лаборатория Касперского
document to your engineer and they will be able to implement it.
в этом проекте.
Ну, мы стараемся, чтобы там...
So Kaspersky Laboratory promotes it, and
что,
it has
если не...
even other companies, your company, some other companies. I do agree that if, for example, some state regulator would join it,
Там Стив Джобс,
actually,
там вот этот
there is a book by Steve Jobs about the world rising,
американские военные.
that Mountain Dew was a long forgotten place until the military came there. So maybe it's a little bit similar here. Maybe in some cases we will have to negotiate with the vendors and we will have to support it in terms of the product. Then we'll be able to create some kind of industrial standards. Yes.
И тогда как бы любой, который
And
хочет
after that, everybody who would like to
конкурировать, да, ему нужно...
compete, maybe, they will have to do so on this field, and you have to create the field.
Стандарт, детектирующий.
Yeah, so for example, you have a standard for detecting rules. Yes, and even mining, it's also
ПТ-3 разложим мой найти техники, как вы их
it's
детектируете.
also a field. How do you detect this for the monitor test? Yes, we can create this kind of field.
А,
Okay, we are running out of time, and
каждому из вас задать
I would like to ask you a question.
Скажите буквально по одному там лозунгу, тезису, мотивационному
Just one motto, one motivational
Б для
short sentence for a vendor, for a user,
и С
for
для
cybersecurity, and for regulators,
развивать экспертизу
which will
Российской Федерации.
make them improve cybersecurity in the Russian
Я,
Federation.
в принципе, об этом уже сказал.
For vendors,
Я призываю вендоров и
I call upon vendors and the companies to support their talented employees who are ready to share their expertise, who are ready to share their knowledge.
либо разрешение,
They either don't have enough authority or enough time. For example, in Google, they have 80 to 20 Pareto
полезных проектов.
principle, and it gave birth to a lot of different projects. In terms of experts themselves, don't be afraid to share your knowledge. The more you share,
Вместе двигаются,
the faster we will move together and the more protected the whole infrastructure becomes.
не было общения.
And I didn't really have any
Регуляторы должны понимать,
experience talking to regulators, but they should understand that if experts
отрасль будет безопасна.
are interested in this, if companies support, it will be beneficial to regulators too. So this is what I would like to say.
Лозунг
Сергей?
нужно давать не просто по
Companies
возможностям это делать,
should give an opportunity,
вот именно
maybe give a day off to their employees, something physical, something
это будет плюс. Это опять же
which you can
стандарты, которые
actually use. It will be very important and positive in the long run. They will promote your product. Yes, it will not be in the short term, but it will be in the middle long term. And they will not burn out. It will be very important for their mental health too. For the users, well, obviously, demand and use the best. It's pretty simple. Just demand for the platforms to prove that they are really good. And for the regulators, you would have to create an environment for it to operate and without any fraudulent activities so that everybody will benefit. Thank you, Sergey. Thank you, Anton. We've discussed expert transparency, expert openness, and we discussed how to develop cybersecurity industry in Russia. And I believe that tomorrow you will be able to show how it works in practice.
До свидания.
Thank you.